Hey y'all, it's Lindsey, and I thought we could do a Wellness Wednesday video today talking all about chasing numbers, and it's going to be a very small scope because we're just going to be talking about me trying not to chase numbers, but also trying to be mindful of numbers and trying to find some sort of happy medium when it comes to tracking my numbers as far as ketones and glucose are concerned. If you're new here, I'm glad you are. I like to share what I eat in a day videos and grocery hauls very rarely, food prep videos a little less rarely, and a few recipe videos here and there on this channel. And if any of that content sounds interesting to you, I would love for you to check out the channel and consider subscribing if you want to do that. Also, my returning viewers, thank you so much for returning. I appreciate your time and your commitment to listening to me pontificate about all sorts of things. All right, this topic came up in my live stream that I had done 2 days ago. I guess technically it was Monday. Let me see if I can't find the actual comment, because the comment was starting to touch on a thing that I also have been mentally wrestling with. And it was, let me see if I can't find that quickly. Okay, the commenter discussed, is there any point after going down the keto continuum trail with Dr. Boz? Dr. Boz has the keto continuum, which is multiple layers of sort of going from a sugar burner and standard American diet all the way down to a fasted ketosis state. And I don't have all of the continuums memorized yet. I've just been listening to her audiobook as I had time, or as I have had time. Words are hard today. Basically talking about, is there an opportunity to go backwards on the continuum? So you start at continuum 1 and work your way down the number line. Is there a place at which you can say, like, if you're on continuum 5, can you go back to continuum 4 and be fine? We tend to get into this space. I've been really kind of contemplating that. How do we go through and continue down a continuum of more extreme, finite, more granular parameters? That's the word I'm looking for. And then realize that at some point we are so granular and so finite in what we can and cannot do that it sort of steps on the toes of our relationships, steps on the toes of our daily lives. Where is that fulcrum on the seesaw of not caring about anything with sugar and then caring entirely about everything, blood glucose and ketone numbers? Like, where's the fulcrum? Where can we be content in our life? Where can we be satisfied with what we get to eat and how we get to fellowship with our community, our families, that kind of thing, versus where our health is optimized? So I've been thinking about this. I don't know that I'm able to eloquently discuss it. So I appreciate your patience with me as I sort of like ramble through these things. I think we can get to a place where we're over testing. Now, Dr. Boz, she would like you to test your numbers first thing in the morning. Those are the numbers that she talks about caring about. You can test it more times per day, but the only numbers that truly matter in her within her spectrum are those first waking numbers. So you're trying to figure out if you've got dawn effect or dawn phenomenon, if you want to have more of a sing-songy sound to it, and then find out what your ketones are doing. So I've been doing that. And then I've also waited a little bit longer and tested a second time. It gets a little expensive to do that, so I don't do that often. And what I have noticed is my morning numbers are awful according to the Dr. Boz ratio, which is a much more simplistic formula to follow than a glucose ketone index, like the GKI, that you would find on a Keto Mojo or following their formula from Keto Mojo. So I like the Dr. Boz ratio because the math is easy. I can easily say, oh, I'm only at 0.5 ketones and my blood sugar is 80. my DBR is 160. Yikes. And that's the thing of it. My DBR, Dr. Boz ratio, has been pretty high lately in the mornings. And I started to wonder what variables were involved. So I started playing around with things that I think I can control, like having more vegetables at dinner or having a fatty coffee in the evenings, just to see how those things manage my blood sugar in the morning and how those impact my ketones in the morning. And something that struck me, it must have been yesterday or, yeah, it was probably sometime yesterday. It was the fact that I'm sitting here believing that I am in control of 100% of the variables. Like I control what I eat, when I eat, how much I eat. I'm in complete control. I get to be the deciding factor for those pieces of this equation. I get kind of in the mindset that this is a linear equation rather than being a much more complex equation for how I input things and what my output actually is. So I got to thinking about the fact that women that are in their fertile years, their hormonal cycle happens on a continuum, like you're constantly rotating through your hormones, and your hormonal chemistry is not the same every single day. It incrementally changes every single day. The first half of your cycle, you are estrogen dominant. In the back half of your cycle, after you ovulate, you are progesterone dominant. And those things impact your insulin. They impact your ability to effectively use glucose. They cause, it shifts things slightly, and it doesn't shift everything the exact same every single day because your body is like ramping up and then it's releasing down. It's not just a straight up and down. Like it's more of a curve, right? So going through thinking about that, I don't have any control over the way that those hormones rise and fall outside of being a healthy, typical adult female. So I kind of got it in my head, where am I in my cycle? Why are my blood sugar numbers a lot higher than I thought they needed to be? Last week, they weren't that high. This week, they're really high. What is happening? And what, point of clarification, when I say really high, I've never had a fasted blood glucose number in triple digits. Never once. So at least not once whenever I've been testing. My highest fasted blood glucose dawn phenomenon number I've ever had has been 98. So I have higher for me. My range tends to be from about 76 up to 98, somewhere in that spectrum. And right now it's kind of in the upper 80s to mid 90s. So I was going through that and I thought, man, last week my numbers were sitting comfortably in the mid 80s. This week, everything is in the upper 80s, 90s, touching that 98 really concerned me. And you know, when I was in the lower 80s, I was thinking, am I just not popping glycogen bubbles? Is that what's happening here? Am I not doing it right? Do I have a cortisol issue? What is going on? You know, you get in your head about these things. You really do. I mean, I really do. I'm talking about the royal you. Keeping in mind that my hormones in general, my female hormones are constantly in a cyclical pattern, and trying to pinpoint where I am on that Ferris wheel and decide how is the input, what I eat, what I drink, how much I eat, when I eat, what is the input going to do when I am at this place on the Ferris wheel compared to this place on the Ferris wheel compared to here. It's just, it gets really, really mentally dizzying. You just get so caught up in it. I don't know. All of that was just kind of going through my brain. I kind of got off on a little mental tangent. Forgive me. Let's sort of try to regroup here. There are a huge variety of people who tell you how to do keto, but a lot of that information is conflicting. You've got people like Dr. Berry, who has loads of great information, who says, don't chase the numbers, don't track, don't do anything, you know, his perfect human diet, his BBBE challenge, those kinds of things. That's wicked cool. I would love to do that. However, I'm not in a season of life where that's going to work for me. Then you've got people like Dr. Boz, who she's dealing with chasing her A1C right now based on the videos she has shared. And so she's tracking her numbers. She's making sure to close like her eating window to be, you know, very granular in that respect. My brain usually functions better in the Dr. Berry world of don't track, eat when you're hungry, don't eat when you're not hungry, eat the proper human diet. Like that's really where the sweet spot is for my brain. But I've kind of gotten a little bit off track with that. And my chemistry seems to be drawing me toward a lot more indulgences than I should probably be consuming. My chemistry is causing more cravings and that sort of thing. So I find myself in a position where I need to go over into the Dr. Boz camp and try things her way for a short period of time in order to decide how to move forward. But ultimately, my goal in this whole like testing my ketones, testing my glucose, is to find a sweet spot where I can be happy in my relationships and fellowshipping with my community while also putting my health as a high enough priority that it doesn't start slipping away from me. Like it's not the absolute most highest priority in my life overall, forever and ever, amen. But it does need to be on the spectrum of a higher priority in my life so that I can support these relationships in a more effective way, if that makes sense. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of all over the place today. I kind of get off on these little tangents and it can be a lot. I've been just like chewing, sidetrack, side note. I tend to have about 87 ideas floating around in my brain at any one given point in time. And often I will be connecting the ideas in erratic ways that does not usually track well with very linear people. And so forgive me for that. I know my husband, he'll say, wait a minute, how did you connect those two ideas? And I'm like, I don't know, but it does. In my brain, it connects. And I cannot verbalize how it connects, but it does. So I am a little bit all over the place with all of these things. Your grace is appreciated in that situation. I don't know what the ultimate goal is, but I do know that keeping in mind where my hormones are on the female hormonal cycle for each monthly cycle is very helpful information. I remember that too often after the fact, and remembering it in the moment is kind of tricky for me. And just being mindful that my small incremental changes need time and the understanding that my hormones are slightly different every single day. So doing the exact same thing the exact same way may not yield the exact same results. It's not linear. It's definitely more of a curve situation. So I don't know what else to share other than my numbers do actually seem to be improving this morning. My, what was my glucose? I would have to go look it up. I'd have to go pull out my monitor. I want to say it was either 87 or 92. I'm struggling to remember right this second, but my ketones were fantastic for me. Normally I wake up and my ketones are at 0.5 and I don't know. This morning they were at 1.2, 1.2. And I was just like, oh, this is brilliant. What did I do exactly last night in order to repeat the cycle again? And even my husband, he like gave me a hug and he was like, oh, you're on fire. Your body is hot. Like, are you sweating? And normally when I'm in ketosis, I'm a very warm-natured person. I'm not usually cold-natured. Even when I'm not in like a high state of ketosis, a moderate, low level, I'm still a very warm person. I don't tend to feel cold in a, like I'm frigid to my bones type of a way on a consistent basis. So even for me, I felt like, oh man, I'm running like wicked hot. This 1.2 situation is fantastic. So, all right, that's enough tangents. That's enough sidetracking, enough all of the blah, 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 blah happening. So be blessed by that. And I hope to see you in my next video.